Hi, this is John Ondo from Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. And before we get into today's episode, I just want to say thank you so much for listening. We're back after being gone for over 4.5 years. And I hope you get a chance to listen to episode 77, where we explain why we were gone for so long and that we're back for at least 3 more episodes. Angel and I are big supporters of entrepreneurship, and we love small businesses and faith-based businesses. And we just want to encourage you through our podcast each week. What's going to determine if we continue with more episodes will be the response. Subscribe to us on your platform. Send us an email at john@ondomedia.com. That would help us know you're listening and you want more episodes. So thank you so much, and let's get into today's episode.
This is the small business podcast that is sweeter than all the rest. Marketing, media, and cupcakes.
Hello, welcome to Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. I'm John, and along with me is my beautiful wife, Angel.
Hi there.
I'm a filmmaker and a media influencer. She is a customer experience expert.
Ooh.
And with us today are good friends who have been with us for the majority of the podcast. Terry and Nay Dismore.
Hello.
Hello, John.
Nay.
Hello, Angel.
Yes.
Hello.
Nay has Snacks with a Twist.
Yes.
What's the website, by the way?
Snackswithatwist.com.
Isn't that genius right there?
I'll tell you.
And Terry is a consultant and a knower of things. And
I like that. I do too.
Yes. And also host of the newly christened podcast, Quiz That Is, which can be found on what channel?
QuizThatIs.com. And you can actually find it wherever podcasts are not sold.
Are not sold. So here's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about 2021 and setting goals for your business. And we're going to talk through some things we've learned with all of our different businesses, and hopefully shed some light, because, Angel, you struggle with goals from work, don't you?
I hate goals.
Okay, and you don't like that.
You
a whole
will
lot.
do this or you will fail.
Something like that.
Yes.
So again, everybody does goal setting differently, and then as you get to the end of the year, which is where we are right now, now you have to do your self-evaluation to see where you landed on said goals that
Gotcha.
were given to you.
So this all sounds very painful.
It's
Because
it's horrific.
Is there a prod involved?
Well, Terry, let me ask you this,
Should
because
be.
when we talk, if you've listened to any of the other 28 podcasts we have with Terry and Renee on our podcast, you are kind of the vision guy. I go to you for vision a lot, and you can't, say, well, we're going to go to the East Coast, to the Atlantic Ocean, without saying, okay, that's great, that's our goal, but now we have to start setting up a plan to get there. So how do we go into this? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people with business right now just saying, I just want to live through the next year. How do we approach that? Because I know this year we threw our goals out. We kind of just said, let's just get through, and if anything comes close to 2019 numbers, we'll count that as a blessing.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think one of the things that you've got to do as a small business is try to get as far away as you can from other people influencing what you do. So in this COVID situation, now my business, one of the businesses I have, I travel all over the country. So if I go, for instance, right now, if I were to go to New Mexico, for instance, I have to quarantine for 14 days, regardless. Unless, now this is the unless, I'm coming in to work for an essential business. Guess what's an essential business? Car dealerships.
Of course.
Well, wait a minute. Okay, so now COVID can't follow me because I'm a car dealership guy. No, that's just one of the rules that they've set up. So it is, how do we get as far away as we can? And I'm just using that as an example. You can say what you want to about the COVID situation. But you've got to be able to react to that, but also try to keep yourself as far away as you can from other people influencing it. The problem with that is, if you're not letting other people influence you, you're probably not in business. Right. So that's where Nay has gotten a lot of her flavor ideas is from other people. We have a new flavor.
Dill pickle.
That we were both like.
Delicious.
Blech.
Oh,
Yes.
so good.
And
But I also thought at first, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I've tried it and I'm like, this works.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened for her. So you do let other people influence you, but you can't I mean, it's really tough because you never know what the rules or the laws or whatever are going to be from week to week. But I feel really bad for people in the restaurant business.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
Because, you can have 12 people in it. No, you can have 7.5 people, but that half person has to stand on their head with one arm behind their back.
And it has to be out the door by 10.
Yes. Because at 10:01, COVID wakes up. Well, we can make as much fun of it as we want to, but those are the rules. So how do you set your business up so that the rules have less effect on what you do? And it's hard to do, but now we know going into 2021 that we probably need to look at that. How can we set goals like for your company? Now, they won't do this, I can guarantee you, because they're a Fortune 500 company, and they have a consultant that's telling them how to set goals, and this will not even enter into the equation on how to set goals because you don't think about that. When you're a small business, you can go, wait a minute. I got kind of tripped up by these last year. How do I keep that from happening?
Focus is such a good word because I think when I look back at 2020 and what we've done again, and we've been very transparent about this on the podcast, we went into 2020 looking at my video production business was kind of leveling off. We wanted to get into podcast production. We felt there was a large market nationwide. It was like, this is going to be great. This is a nationwide, worldwide market we could tap into.
Yeah.
We've got the skills. We've got the equipment. We got everything to do that. Well, then what happened was everybody, it wasn't us, it was people who wanted to produce podcasts all disappeared because they lost their jobs. They lost. So we went back to, we basically didn't drop it, but we just merged it back into Hondo Media. And the reason was focus on what we do know we do well, and that's video production. And the podcasting is still part of it, but we've even done that even recently on Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. We want to focus on what we both do well at. Customer experience, lady right here.
That's me.
Video marketing and so
The
forth.
beautiful
with me.
Angelanda.
Yes,
Oh, let's
absolutely.
not forget that.
Well, but one other thing to say to that, John, is you reacted to the market situation as it was. Now, let's talk about the podcast business that you have. Chances are that's going to return, and it'll probably return with a vengeance at some point.
Possibly.
And so you're ready for it, but you're not. That's not the only. It's like, what do we do? We're members of a networking group here in Columbus called H7. It's actually based in Dayton, Cincinnati, and there are hundreds of people in it. And so the week that it started, the guy that he freaked out, and he should, because we didn't have a plan for what do you do if you can't meet in person.
Right.
But he gathered a group of people around him and said, what do we do? And they said, well, have you heard of Zoom? Nobody had heard of Zoom then.
But Zoom, did change everything. And it was like, a few months ago, we talked about Zoom and all the different ways to meet. But now if you talk to people now, most people are like, I'm over it.
Yes.
I'm ready to get back.
Done.
And that says a lot to something us old-timers always say about the fact that things really do. This is why I don't change my style of fashion. It will return back in about 5 to 10 years. And so you could sit back and say, well, this Zoom is going to be fabulous. Well, it is fabulous. But there's only so much anybody can take of not meeting people in person, having coffee, having dinner. So I think it's again shown that technology is great, but it is not a complete replacement for relationships.
No,
you got to be in place, and you got to be in person at some point because we heavily rely on that, and that's why I feel bad for instance, churches that haven't opened back up yet because it's like, well, we can't. It's like, no, there's no law in the state of Ohio that you can't.
Yeah.
It just is your preference. And so, okay, say that it's your preference. I don't mind if that's your preference.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about is when you're talking about making goals and setting goals and all this kind of stuff and technology, we put a lot of eggs in certain baskets. And we've seen through this political season that we went through a couple of months ago that some of the baskets have holes in them.
Right.
All right. So I made the comment one day when there was a particular act of censorship that happened. I said, Facebook has built a really nice building out on Beach Road that'll be available for somebody in a few months. I really believe that. It won't be too long until they're like, okay, we've got a $750 million data center that we're using half of. Not because of anything political. It's just people forget that nothing's permanent.
Right.
We have a friend that's a consultant. I love this story. And he was consulting with the guys at Walmart. and I'm talking about not the guys at the local Walmart, like down in Bentonville. So he said, "Okay, I'm going to draw this on the wall here." Said, "You tell me who I'm talking about." He said, "Largest retailer in the United States. The yearly income for this retailer is bigger than all but 18 countries on the planet. That one of every 10 people in the United States have shopped here in the last year. One of every 20 has worked for us at some time. Who am I talking about?" And they're like, "Us." He said, "Nope, that's Sears in 1973.
Yeah.
And Sears. Who goes to Sears anymore? Can you?
I don't think you can.
You can't. You can't go to Sears anymore. Not around here.
And yet they owned everything, if you will, of the Amazon. They had catalog mail to home.
Yep.
You could buy a house and have it shipped to and have it built.
Yeah.
And so when you sit back and go, "Oh man, isn't Amazon?" Well, Sears was doing it the hard way.
So what keeps? So this goes along with our planning for the new year. What keeps somebody from going, here's a flaw in Amazon? Now, we don't see it yet, but it's there. It's got to be there. Anything that man makes has a flaw in it. And what is it? With Sears, it was, we do everything best. I use the difference between In-N-Out Burger, which isn't around here,
right,
and McDonald's. Now, the interesting thing, if you talk to anybody that's traveled at all, they'll be, In-N-Out. Oh, my gosh, it's so good.
That actually was a conversation somewhere recently.
Might have been with me.
Oh, it could have been, yeah.
But the deal is, In-N-Out Burger and McDonald's started within 15 miles of each other within 2 years of each other in the late 40s in Southern California. McDonald's is this huge intergalactic company. They've got 5,000 or 6,000 restaurants worldwide. In-N-Out Burger does not. And yet, the loyalty to In-N-Out Burger is like the loyalty is to Chick-fil-A.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to have that. I'm going to have that.
Yes.
And when I get off the airplane, there's an In-N-Out Burger. I don't care if I'm even not hungry. I'm going to stop and get one. Now, the reason for that is they're very focused on who they are and what they do. They make hamburgers. If you don't want a hamburger, you want some chicken, there's a lot of places that serve chicken. We don't. Whereas McDonald's, we got chicken. Okay, how about a salad? Oh, we got cookies. Yeah, we got that. They've tried pizza. Did you know that?
I remember I got it several times. It was very good.
And most people don't know this.
Be honest, it was really good.
But one of their big focuses is the fries. The fries are really the center of the menu. That was always it's like, we want to get people in and out with fries and 90 seconds or something. It wasn't much the burgers or the other stuff. It was the fries.
Right.
And still, it's the only thing I really do like at McDonald's.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting you mentioned that, because we look at, go back to Microsoft back in the 1990s or whenever it was. Microsoft was huge, and then suddenly the government said, we might break you up. And now there's talk of Google, Amazon, FANG, as we all know them now, on the stock market, that they're going to go in. Yes, they're going to look at breaking up these because either censorship or they're too big of a monopoly. So you could sit back and say, well, Amazon will be there forever. Probably not. There's going to be a season for this, and unless they're really good. But you do see things like Chick-fil-A you mentioned, and Apple, and what I believe Steve Jobs built was, again, the experience, and that's what Chick-fil-A relies on, and that's what our small businesses all build on, is what is the experience. So when you look at goals, I think one of the things you really need to put in your 2021 post-it note there is, what is your customer experience? How can I improve that? And I do think that was the biggest thing I think we learned in 2020 was, okay, I may have to do a Zoom call, but I have to listen. Going back to your
That's
previous
a big
podcast,
thing,
I have to listen and be able to respond. A lot of people, it was just, I don't know, we're gonna. It's like, no, it's like, you know what, we can get you that in 2 days, or we can, we'll see that it gets done, or as soon as we can manufacture whatever it is, you will be the first on our list or second on our list to let you know that we can get that out to you. So I would say customer service, customer experience needs to be something you should be at least analyzing in your 2021 kit and caboodle, as we call it here.
So, Nay, since Terry mentioned that you're getting some of your corporate business back, why? Like, what are they? Are they back in the office? Are they doing different things? How is that business returned, and what exactly is happening?
One company went after other corporations to get their products in, and so they wanted, because they got some of those companies, then they were able to come back and go, hey, we want to invite you to come back and be a part of this, because your products are really good. You meet all our expectations. It was so funny because we have one of our corporate accounts is C. Kruger's Finest Baked Goods, and so they came to me and they, and I said, yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. Well, then they were trying to bring in another local company to be a part of this, and they called me up 2 weeks ago for this one particular thing. Was that one of the companies they wanted to be a part of this came back to them and last minute and goes, oh, well, we don't have time to bag our stuff, so we're just going to give it to you in bulk and you'll have to bag it yourselves. And so they were calling us to see how we bagged our products. I said, it's called Nay and Lisa, and anybody else who comes along and wants to help us. But
3,000 bags of product.
Yes.
But you didn't say no to them.
No, I just told them we didn't have automated system, because this would have been quite a project.
It's made us go, wait a minute, what's it going to cost us to automate some of this stuff? Now, I don't mean automate the sale, but how do we automate the labeling, or how do we automate the bagging of something?
How will that save us time and increase our productivity?
Right.
And so it's made us think those things where we really hadn't before. I'd never thought about that.
That's not unlike a situation that we've been dealing with Angel's Custom Cupcakes. She gets these orders, and it is custom, so it's like we don't know. We don't have boxes and boxes of boxes sitting here, because we don't know from day to day if we need a 19 by 5, a 21 by 14.
These are
25 or
some
6 to 4.
really big cakes.
I don't know. So often she wakes up in the middle of the night screaming, saying, I don't have a box for this tomorrow, and it's Sunday and she can't get it. And I'm like, I just said, let's just buy some boxes. And because I know what it is, we're trying to save some money. We don't want to have stock, but it's like at the point now where that's causing us stress and time. So let's remove that stress item by just having a little bit of everything here, and it will be just nice to go to bed at night knowing I got a box for that, and it's down, and that doesn't have to be our struggle. Our struggle should be, how does it taste? How does it print? If it's a print sheet cake thing or something.
Well, either that or you say no to it.
No.
And we've had, and you rarely say no to something.
Yeah.
I know both of you ladies rarely say no to, unless somebody's like, I want this. We don't do that.
I've had to say no twice in the last couple of weeks, and it's the,
can you have it tomorrow? Yeah,
the text message, 2 days before they want it, and I already have 2 orders. And it's like, no, I mean, I just can't, Yeah.
So I had to with the company a good while back, because they came to me and they really nickeled and dimed me to get our small bags. Well, then they turned around and came back and said, hey, we want to buy your large bag of pretzels, but we only want to pay $1 for them. Well, when I quit laughing on the phone, I said no.
Because it would have been a huge order.
Huge.
Huge. It would have been.
Yes, it would have been a very large order, but however, every bag I would have lost on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And they would have turned around and sold it for $8.
Oh, yeah.
No. And that's what I told them. I said no. And then he came back. He goes, you're not mad at us, are you? And I went, no. Will you still sell us the small bags? And I said, of course I will.
Oh.
But,
now, the other thing about that,
I would have been like, no,
I'm not mad. I'm getting even. Well, the other thing about that is, had we had automation in place, we know our costs. We've talked about this on this podcast before.
Yes, we have.
How important costing is. We've even sat down upstairs and did a spreadsheet.
We do, and yet I still don't pay any attention to it anymore.
I know, but it's got
I try.
You've got an idea.
She has an
have
idea
an
now.
idea.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, when we did Angel's spreadsheet, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm making that much." I'm like, "No, you got to count this and this."
This is
into
what
it.
you're getting time for.
Yeah, your time is valuable and your talent is valuable, and this is the thing that John I think you kind of understand inherently because you are a media person, and media has no. It's hard to cost.
So in 2021, it'd be a good thing to analyze your processes, your productivity, to find out what is keeping you. The fires that we all have to put out. Well, can some of them be put out, like the boxes we mentioned, or if it's a cost analysis thing? Well, if that's simple enough, that gets thing off your checklist next year. That's one thing. I think sometimes we always want I want to score that one. I know how many times I did this when I started Onto Media. I'm just going to score that $100,000 account this year. Mm-hmm. Well, that never came, but there was maybe 3 or 4 small wins that really would have helped me, a much better stress relief or whatever, having those small wins. So sometimes the small wins are really important.
Well, I guess if you wanted to summarize everything, because we're trying to think of that, is to focus on things. When you're setting your goals, what do you want to focus on? What do you want to prepare for? Mm-hmm. And what do you need to get in-house to help you prepare? Well, for instance, Nay we had this organic spice guy that we used, loved it. And he's just like in the middle of the year. He's still in business, but we never hear from him anymore. Yeah. We can't get him to return a phone call.
Well, I can tell you that during a certain period of time this year, flour was a little bit of a challenge to find.
Really?
Right a couple of weeks after the old vid hit in March, the shelves were empty.
And we
at
couldn't
Meijer,
use toilet paper
Kroger,
as a substitute either.
No, not anymore.
So when I finally did find it, even though I knew I didn't need it, I just picked up a bag. Now, I had no orders either. So again, I would say what I do is a little bit different because it is not my livelihood. It is not my income. Right. It is just a passion.
But you don't want to wake up screaming at 3 a.m. on Sunday morning.
No, I'm sick and tired of not having boxes. That's my problem. I'm tired of not having boxes.
And so you just, and in that case, you kind of determine what you need and you make sure that you can prepare for it.
Yes. So I've purchased my smaller boxes. This was just happened to be a bigger cake that I don't normally get.
Like a 48 by 72, like
something like that. Maybe a 92 by 84.
Yeah.
Something like that.
I know when we met and we talked in the early days of COVID, and we were very optimistic, maybe somewhat naive, but we were like, we're coming out of this, it's going to be good, it's going to be fine, and this is going to be done by fall, based on what people were telling us.
No, it's the science, my brother.
Yes. Now I think it's kind of that fool me once, shame on me, fool me twice, shame on you, or whatever that statement is. I think it's backwards.
Yeah, but that's okay.
Yeah, it's the whole fact though is I think in 2021, I don't think any of us are going to go into any kind of new venture without really weighing the cost a little bit more, because we don't know when somebody might say, you know what, we're a little paranoid about something, so let's put on masks or change the policies or whatever it is. So I think there is a little bit more of, and I think that's good. It's good for us businesses to sit back and say, is this what happens if this happens? I don't think we should guide everything by that. I know you're a man of faith like myself, but there is you have to at least look through the lens and say, am I prepared if this goes sideways? Can this business work, or do I will I shut it down temporarily and go to something else?
And what that looks like.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing about it is you said something very interesting a minute ago, and I'm going to ask each of us here this question. What does happen next? Anybody know? We didn't last year either, at the beginning of the year.
No one ever knows.
No.
It doesn't matter what's happening.
We don't want to overreact to a year of, none of us ever know what's next.
No. Nope.
Even though we think we do. And the mistake that we made at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, we're like, patterns will follow. No, patterns never follow. Mm-hmm. I read an interesting monograph this week by I can't think of his name. John McCullough is a historian, and I like to read. Yeah, and I'm reading something by him, and he did a speech one time, and he said, history is mostly a list of things not to do. and what we did at the end of 2019, 2020, we all thought, this is going to be a great year. Even the Bible has something to say about that. Well, you're planning on going to town, making this kind of money, and you don't know whether your life will be called for tonight. The point on all of that isn't don't plan. It is don't rely on the plans to tell you what to do, because here's the interesting thing. In the Depression, some of the greatest companies that are in existence today started. IBM started during the Depression, and some others. General Motors consolidated not long before the Depression and stayed in business. Ford almost went out of business, but stayed in business during that. And so the point is, we never know what's going to happen anyway. So let's not react to not knowing what's going to happen like it's something new. You hear the phrase "new normal." Mm-hmm. Normal is normal. Certain processes work, certain processes don't. It's a little bit different navigation at the moment.
Sure.
But there will be a day when we're like gathering at the shoe for a football game and won't think a thing about it. But now we do.
Mm-hmm. And you look at, there's still so many, people look at it, well, this didn't happen, this didn't happen, this didn't happen. There's other things I look at is that this is a blank sheet of paper for many people. Well, I can't make Facebook marketing work. Well, you know what? Facebook isn't really as hot as it used to be, so you might have a new opportunity to try something new because there's new platforms. TikTok is doing a lot. Where we used to think Snapchat was just for kids. Now it's become a major player in business marketing now. So, it's a fresh page if you want to look at it that way. And, to me, and Terry, you're into cars, so you can speak to this a little bit. I think it's very interesting that GM, its CEO, has committed GM into all electric cars as soon as possible, basically. Right. And a lot of people who buy pickup trucks, and I see a lot of Silverados out there right now, are not interested in GM doing it. Yet, in the same thing, if I say, hey, what do you think about Tesla? Oh, I love Tesla. Look what they've done with their cars, and they're all electric. So it just shows the odd position we're in. We'll be against a major player saying it's going to go electric for whatever reason because we don't like their brand or we've had bad luck with their cars or something like that, and then we say, well, that electric stuff is no good, but Tesla does it and we're okay with it. So it just shows there's always opportunities, because if Elon Musk said, well, they don't like these electric cars, GM is getting a lot of pushback on it, I shouldn't make electric cars. That's not what he did.
Why not?
Yeah.
Nay and I'll tell you what it all stems from, I believe. Nay and I were having lunch yesterday at a restaurant, and I came back.
Good place to have lunch.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. And I came back to the table, and I said, my sweet, you never nag me. And she doesn't. Been married 35 years plus. You never nag me. And yet, everywhere we go now, I'm nagged about something. Wash your hands. Wear your mask. Walk on this side of the street. Stay 6 feet apart. Now, okay, let's pretend that the science says what it says. Mm-hmm. And I know that the Fortune 500 company you're working for has a lot to do with some of that, and you'd tell me, but you'd have to kill me. Mm-hmm. But the point is, we're all kind of tired of being nagged.
Absolutely.
Well, now, why is that? Why is it we're tired of being nagged? Because we're smart enough to know what to do in the first place.
Yeah. Correct. The problem, and I'm just making a statement.
No, you're all right.
The problem is that there are a portion of people out there who don't listen anyway. There's, again, I think that COVID fatigue is a true thing.
Yep.
And I think there are certain age ranges, certain age brackets.
The thing about it is, when you get fatigued with something, you don't pay attention to it anymore. It's kind of like driving fatigue. So when I'm driving across Pennsylvania, for instance, and I think all four of us here have done that at some point, where you're on the Pennsylvania Turnpike and you're like, good Lord, how far is this?
How far is it to the next road construction where I'm stopped? Yeah.
Well, yeah, that one. And you get fatigued. You get that road fatigue. You're looking at the white line going by, and you just forget what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And it's the same way in business. We do that a lot of times.
Yes.
We forget what we're doing because we do the same thing over and over again.
And again, that's one of the areas as a creative, in the creative world, which we all are, we've lost in this, I've had, unfortunately, some fun at my wife's expense because she can do her job with her big company at home very easily, but there has been a strong demand for them all to get back in the office. And I'm like, why? There's a lot of research that shows it's really good for people to work from home. But on the flip side, in some environments, I think, especially in creative environments, and like you mentioned, you got to have that lunch. You've got to have that creative, hey, let's talk about some ways we can make business better. And we don't have that now because nobody wants one more Zoom call or phone call or text message anymore. I would just like to go out to lunch. Oh, let's go. Well, we can't because we're not allowed or something. So that's definitely somehow, I think, a point in the 2021 refit as a goal is how can I get those creative meetings back? Maybe they do have to be on Zoom and everybody has lunch, or you do something else. Yeah. But how can I influence some creativity, some new ideas? Because I think there will be some wonderful advantages for creative businesses who can do that, because a lot of them are like, well, we can't do that now, and they've lost a year.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like World War II, where everything shut down to build war machines during World War II, and all the cars came back in 46, and they were just like the 42s or whatever it was. Yeah. It took them a couple of years to spin up to the 50s. And this is an opportunity for businesses to sit back and say, we had a year off, sort of, and either we pick up with the 2020 model, or do I think ahead and think, what's the 2022? Let's just forget 2020 and 2021. What's the 2022 model? We should be, and we didn't have time to talk about it, so let's haul and let's figure out what we can do with that.
Well, and the thing that I think comes in here is this, and this is the elephant we haven't mentioned in the room, and that's fear. Fear is faith in a bad outcome, that next year is going to be just like this or worse. I call it the hangnail principle. So people have this all the time. They get a hangnail. So, well, I could get infected. I could lose that finger. I could get gangrene all the way up to my elbow.
Oh.
I could lose my arm. I'm going to die. The slope is the same when there's a penny. I could find a nickel tomorrow. I might find a $50. I could be a millionaire by the end of the week.
It's really nothing new, quite honestly. All this, it's just the media has made it worse. But the whole point of my whole discussion here is we need small wins. We need a vaccine, and then we need this to happen. And versus when are the numbers going to go down, or when is my business going to go back up? I would suggest setting goals for small wins, which also goes to another thing I always say. People like to follow winners. If you constantly have to sit back and look at your employees and whatever and say, well, we didn't make any of our goals this year of converting 10 gazillion sales.
Yeah.
That was probably an unrealistic goal. You should have come up with a goal that was, something we really could pick off and get charged up that, hey, January we picked off our goal. And then we move on. So
yeah, we've got a friend that's in a sales business for a media company here in town, and she has a goal that's frankly unrealistic. And if she doesn't make at least 75% of that goal, she doesn't get paid anything for that.
That's a bad deal.
Well, it is, except for the people that own the company.
Right.
It's a great deal for them.
Because they're getting 75%.
Well, let's say she gets 74% of it. Well, they've made a lot of money. Yeah. She hasn't made anything.
Right.
You've got to be careful. I was reading the other day about setting goals like that and paying people like that payment and bonuses have to be, first of all, realistic. They have to point you towards something. Goals are the same way, have to point you towards something, but they cannot be unfair, and they cannot be changed in the middle of the game. Now, what happened in March is our game changed.
Yep.
The whole game changed in March. And the perception was, it's always going to be like this. Nope, it's not always going to be like this. How are you prepared right now, not to return to normal or the new normal, but to proceed? Because if you go back to the way it used to be, that's regression. If you think that there's going to be a new normal, see, I made a comment here a while back on some post or something I wrote, is that what people forget is that human nature doesn't change. We typically want to be social. We typically want to have something a little better than the person next to us. We typically want to grow in our lives. We typically want to love those around us. Now, there are people that don't want any of those things, but there aren't many of them. And we tend to forget that. And I said the communists spent 100 million lives trying to change human nature. It cannot be changed. And so when you're talking about your goals, The reason I asked you a long time ago, I think it was 3 years ago or earlier in this podcast, which is the same amount of time.
Give or take.
Give or take. Were they quantitative or qualitative goals that you had? And quantitative indicates that it can be counted, whereas qualitative indicates that it can be experienced. I've been involved in Christian radio for a long time, and what I've found out is what we've gone for is what can you count?
Right.
Well, what you can count doesn't always mean that the quality of the work is good, doesn't mean that the quality of the life is good, doesn't mean that any of that stuff is good. And Nay and I've had many conversations about this, is how do we incorporate those kind of goals into her business? We've determined this: when her business ceases to be fun, we won't do it anymore.
Yeah, and that was probably the two things I wanted to point out as we wrap up here is I think the trials of this year prove one thing. What can we do to improve your business in 2021 so that you can have some joy back? Yeah. And not fear that, okay, we may miss a month of sales because something happens. We'll be okay. We have planned for that. The other thing, too, and the last point I would make is investing in yourself. Because we sit here and say, well, let's buy more boxes or let's get a thing that can automate. That's great. But what are we doing to improve our own business mindset so we can be smart? Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
And so I would suggest add that into our goal list that we're going to put together here, and you'll have it in the show notes, and you can pick these off in 2021. I think you'll have a good year.
Focus and prepare. If you wanted to break it down to 2 points, it's focus and prepare.
Thank you guys for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
And again, you can listen to Terry's podcast at Quizzed It Is. He's on all major podcast platforms. And if I could ask a favor of you, if you've liked what you've heard today on Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes, well, would you please share us with someone you know? It could be somebody who listens to podcasts, or maybe get them turned on to podcast by letting them know about Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes. It would mean a tremendous amount to Angel and myself as we are investing the time into this production every week as we try to bring insight into our experiences with small business, customer experience, marketing, media, and of course, cupcakes. So again, like us on all of our platforms. You can find us at marketingmediacupcakes.com. And until 2021, keep living the dream.
Connect with John and Angel via Facebook and Instagram and let us know your thoughts. Marketing, Media, and Cupcakes is a production of Ondo Media.